Remind me what the questions are. How to stay interesting? Do I still lesson plan? What was the last one? Oh, resources. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. Really quick. How do you be interesting in the classroom and engaging? The short answer is be interested. The way to be interesting is to be interested. If you're teaching something and you are bored with it, then do not be surprised that your students are also bored, right? Now what that means is some parts of maths you will find more interesting than others. There are parts of maths, like I love geometry. I find it very easy to get interested in geometry because it's the visual of it is very enticing to me and it's like a puzzle to try and solve. And so it's easy for me to get interested in that. Statistics, less so, right? In fact, we were talking about university level maths before. I'm quite embarrassed to admit this, but it's just true. You know how you can choose your university maths units, right? To some degree. I mean, some are compulsory and then you start to be able to choose. I avoided statistics at uni. I didn't do any university level statistics because I thought, and this was true back then, in year 11 and 12, in advanced and extension 1 and extension 2, there was no stats. I didn't study any stats when I was in high school past mean, mode, median, standard deviation. I was like, don't need that, it'll be fine. And then there was a syllabus change. And there's a lot of stats in advanced and extension 1 now, and I'm like, dang it, I've got to go back and learn that stuff, right? Now, it takes more effort for me to find interesting things in statistics. But it's not impossible. And we have that duty, I think, an obligation, a responsibility to our students to find the part of this subject that connects to their life, that's interesting to us, that we can get excited about, that we can find a story. Let's talk about the statistical models underneath something like Midjourney. Do you guys know what Midjourney is? So Midjourney is in this new class of generative artificial intelligence. You can give Midjourney like a 1-sentence prompt. One I saw literally this morning on the train into uni was, draw me a picture of Pikachu in a dark alley that's wet and there's a reflection of Pikachu in the ground. And it generated an image that looks like it's been drawn by an artist. It's insane, right? What are they doing? They're using these incredible models to draw in all of this, images from the internet and then combine it in interesting ways, right? There's a lot of mathematics and statistics underneath that, right? That I don't understand very well yet. But if I can do the work to do that and then show students this artwork, by me being interested, like there's no way to fake your own engagement with something if you want your students to be engaged. Does that make sense? Second one there, lesson planning. Do I still lesson plan? Yes. In fact, could you do me a favor? Could you pass that back to me actually? Here. I can do better than tell you that I lesson plan. I can show you my lesson plans. I mean, obviously you're not going to be able to see it from where you are, but I'm just going to give you an example. Here we go. This is a fun one. Okay, so which example should I pick out? So many different ones. So, all right. Now, I know you guys can't read this in detail, but you'll be able to see enough for me to illustrate, okay? Now, this is in the Extension 2 topic, Nature of Proof, okay? Now, it's in that part where we're doing inequality proofs. Do you remember inequality proofs? Man, they were hard. I found them really hard. Now, all you need to know about this, right, is first, I'm actually doing the problem. Like, you've got to know the problem if you're going to use it as a worked example. You've got to know it backwards and forwards, right? If you want to stand up and not just read notes, which, by the way, is a real giveaway. If you're trying to look like a confident teacher, don't stand there and read notes. I look back at my old videos. I used to do it because I didn't know the content well enough, right? But you work through, and then importantly, I just want you to notice, right? Do you see there's like this weird interlude in here? Like there's written stuff in between the symbols, right? Now this is me talking to myself. I'm anticipating a question from my students, and by the way, anticipation of student results, student thinking is a huge part of lesson planning and making your lessons interesting and engaging. That anticipation is something that I can do now because I've taught like related topics before and I know students are going to raise this thing. They're like, why are you doing this thing? Have you ever like read a written example, a worked example, and you're like, how did they get from line 3 to line 4? Or not even how did they get there, why would they even think to do that thing they did from line 3 to line 4? It just boggles my mind, right? So this is me thinking and talking to myself in my own lesson plan to understand, okay students, I know you're going to look at this line and say, what on earth is going on here? Let me articulate for you, right? So do I still lesson plan? Yes. However, one of my favorite quotes on this is actually from a US Navy admiral who became a US president, Dwight D. Eisenhower. He said, Plans are nothing, but planning is everything. I tend not to look back at my plan after I've written it, especially now that I know most of what I'm teaching, even when it's quite new, right? That plan is not for me to refer to, because what will happen is I'll start teaching and then students will ask me questions and I'll just have to respond to them, right? I can't say to them, don't ask me this question, that's not on my script, right? That's not a good way to engage your students, right? So I don't actually end up referring to my plan much, but the process of planning has shaped and molded my brain into something so that when I'm there in the lesson, I'm ready to deliver and I'm ready to respond, okay? So there's no substitute for really good methodical planning, and even as an experienced teacher, I still do it. The last question you asked about resources. I'm gonna say, in terms of textbooks and written stuff, the key thing to know is you need lots of them. And you need a diversity of them, right? There is no one textbook that will meet the needs of all of your students and all of your lessons. You have to have a range, right? But I'm gonna answer this question in a way that probably is not really what was being intended, but I think is the real deeper answer, which is that the best resource that you have when you're teaching is the teachers around you. Ask them questions, riddle them with questions. When you are walking back from your classroom and you and your colleagues step out of it, the bell's just gone, you both step out of your classroom at the same time and you're walking back to the staff room. That 5 minutes that you spend walking back to the staff room, the dialogue you have with them when you say, that lesson was a train wreck. It just blew up in my face. I put so much work into it. I had these resources planned. I thought it'd be great and it didn't work. Why didn't it work? Asking those questions and having that conversation, that professional dialogue, that's really the best resource that you have. And you know, your friends, your professional network from other schools, when you leave from here and you're all planted in other schools, keep in contact with each other and say like, man, what should I do? I'm teaching trig for the first time. I've got no idea, right? Ask a friend, ask a colleague. They will have things that you can draw from. That's the best resource you can have.